So imagine walking into a Nike store and actually creating your own perfect shoe. The perfect design, amazing colors, unique style. And if you don't want to buy it, you can actually just keep it as a creation. Guess what? You can actually do this here in the comfort of your home here in Switzerland, in Aubonne. I'm assuming many of you like football in the room. Am I right? Would you have liked to have gone to Qatar to experience the World Cup 2022 FIFA? You could have done that in the Metaverse without actually leaving your home, standing in line at the airport or taking long flights. Imagine experiencing the best matches just straight from your home. This is what the Metaverse is. It's all about creation. Virtual creations, virtual experiences, and virtual games. I am Anjali Bastianpillai, and for more than 20 years, I've been working in finance. I focus on thematic tech investing. These are mega trends that can come from socioeconomic, environmental, or technology, and can disrupt the world. In tech, AI, semiconductors, as well as software, have changed the world in very many ways. And I've always been interested in the virtualization of the world, especially as it increases innovation, inclusion, and interconnectedness. So the Metaverse is just simply a 3D version of the internet. But I would say before I go into what's great about it or why the hype has died, the numbers speak for themselves. In the Metaverse, the largest virtual concert, was attended by more than 12 million people in fortnight. The fashion world is expected to have virtual fashion sales up to $1 billion by 2030. And I can go on and on about these numbers in the Metaverse, but what does it really mean? It means that our experience in the virtual world has to be more meaningful than in the physical world. And it also has something to do with a sociological shift rather than a technological one. Let me give you the simplest example. Today, books, music, and photos are all consumed digitally. You can have a Kodak moment and print a photo, frame it, keep it in your home. Two other really good examples, I think, come from the corporate world and the industrial world. In the industrial world, the Metaverse is simply called a digital twin. Instead of your avatar, you're digital twinning a product, a car, a simulation of a design. And one good example here is BMW. BMW and NVIDIA Omniverse have created what we call a digital factory in Hungary. Before they even produce a single car, they've mapped the whole supply chain, used blockchain to figure out how they can authenticate the goods that they receive in order to build that car. So traceability is a good one, authenticating where your goods are coming from. And then with 3D assets, virtual workers, and virtual simulations and floor plans, they design the perfect car without actually building it, without actually wasting any physical products or physical goods. Another example is you and I in the corporate world. We've all been through COVID, the whole work from home, work from anywhere, you name it. It's called the hybrid model. So you no longer need to commute as much to go to work. You also don't need to spend as much on your work clothes. And another good example here is the Metaverse with Accenture, created by, in conjunction with Microsoft. They created what's called the End Flow. The End Flow is essentially an onboarding Metaverse for all new hires so that they can really experience the whole onboarding process, but also visit all sorts of offices across the planet, and it kind of actively helps them get started. These are simple examples of virtual life, virtual reality. So before I go to this, I would say there are three key drivers for me about why this topic is so important for us, especially in the virtualization of the world. The first one comes from the fact that it's all driven by Generation Z, you here in the room, and younger millennials. If you take that percentage of the population, it's 1/3 of the global population is Gen Z and younger millennials. They're fully tech savvy. They're born in full-blown mode of being either online or sleeping. If they're not sleeping, they're online. If Maslow was still alive, I think he'd create another category in his pyramid of human needs. But they are very tech savvy. Why? Because they're born in an era with the internet, with social media, with smartphones. That's all they've ever known. And they're instrumental to the rise of the metaverse. The other thing that they like is very customized individual products. They like the whole sort of experience of something very different, very personal to them. And I'll get into that why. The second part of, or the second key driver for me, comes really from the technology. Yeah, it's all about ChatGPT right now, but guess what? The metaverse uses exactly the same technology. You start with the hardware. The hardware can be essentially an entry point. It doesn't have to be a VR or AR or mixed reality, especially a goggle, not a goggle, but like a device that costs 3.5 or 3,500. You don't have to have that. You can do it with a phone, you can do it with a computer. There are many entry points. It could be wearables, but that's the starting point. And then on this tech stack, the next one is essentially the cloud infrastructure. Very powerful to give you that seamless experience in this kind of 3D internet version of the virtual world. It's powered by very powerful and leading edge semiconductors, the same ones that you find when you're running your ChatGPT query. The other layer of technology that's also super important is applications, software applications. Software applications that we all use every day to shop, to entertain, to learn, to game, you name it. And they've all become real utilities in our life. People don't even realize that. But that's super important. It's where the e-commerce and the gaming platforms are kind of the best examples today of the metaverse. And then finally, in the tech stack, you also need the infrastructure. 5G, very soon 6G. You have the whole ecosystem of blockchain that protects you as your person, your online identity. And then I would also add layers of cybersecurity to protect as much data as possible. Then finally, this is where I like this photo. When you look at it, there's almost 8 billion people on the planet. 4 billion of them have access to the internet, and 3 billion are gamers. The gaming world is the most interesting part of the metaverse. It's where you have the biggest concerts with Justin Bieber, for example. It's where you can buy real estate next to Snoop Dogg or not. It's where you can really go and experience all these capsules in fashion or any sort of Gucci vault / the latest, coolest little Gucci bag that you want to get virtually. You can also buy real estate, or you can also buy art. You can, trade all this through NFTs or smart contracts. It's a huge ecosystem. But the gaming world is also very soon going to reach 4 billion by 2030, maybe even before that. So these are the three layers of kind of very important factors. But you're going to ask me, so what? Why do we need the metaverse? What does it really mean to us? Well, the first thing is, if I go back to Gen Z, if you look at that demographic, so if you take younger millennials and Gen Z, they're 1/3 of the population. They are the most diverse in history, and that diversity makes all the difference. Because brands today really need to cater to that diversity. The way the metaverse, or the way brands come alive in the metaverse, is they have to address scarcity, They have to address all sorts of experiential luxury. Sort of the whole experience has to be very different, very personalized, very customized. They also have to address all sorts of limitations that you don't find in the real world, but they truly have to address the diversity that this demographic demands, because one day they will have very strong purchasing power. And that purchasing power will mean that if they don't build the trust and the loyalty and the customer sort of engagement today, they won't have that demographic as potential future buyers of their products. And then the third one is one that I'm very interested in, because I think it's all about, and again, it's that young demographic, how they think about scarcity, how they think about wealth distribution. It's almost like the circular economy. They'd rather spend more in the virtual world than in the real world, so that you have more available for everyone, so you have more available to distribute to everyone. And that's very, very important to them, the way they look at everything, from the environment, from how they consume, how they engage with the digital world. It's very different from older generations. And then I would say finally that the way this demographics also engages with digital, it's still very much the early days. And I think it has a huge potential for innovation, for inclusion, and for interconnectedness. I think we all have seen these movies, Ready Player One, Free Guy, or The Matrix, and we've all seen how humanity hopes and fears about what's going to come or will happen in the metaverse. The thing is, all that technology is already available here to create all of this, and it's only improving every single day. You don't need ChatGPT to tell you that. I think it's really up to us to create really the virtual life that you really want. And I would say when you take virtual reality or look at virtual reality, it's definitely a way of I guess I would characterize it as it's been sort of described, it's probably a better word, as the ultimate, how do you say this? It's really been described as the ultimate empathy machine, if I can describe it that way. And that's mainly because it really allows you to step into the shoes of, take yourself and step in the shoes of someone else, and so you can feel that empathy. And I think with the metaverse, again, if you could have that same analogy, I think it's also a way of creating, if you want, a humanity by really taking the technology behind it and fostering it exactly for the same reasons that I talked about virtualization, talking about diversity, well, not in diversity, but innovation, but using it profusely for inclusion and for interconnectedness. Thank you very much.